Hey folks, it's me. I have taken multiple cuts of this video tonight because I keep crying because I have some very big things to talk about. And these maybe can be little things turned into big things, but to me I think they're big things. And they're having big effects on me. I've had a really rough week, but it's actually, just psychologically, I've been handling it pretty well compared to what I expected to. Um, I I think it could be going a lot worse. I guess that doesn't help the situation to start there, but um, I guess taking it back to a week or so ago, you know, I was talking to somebody actually decent on an online dating site, and I was like, awesome, like we were scheduling to have a date, and I haven't been on a decent date in a couple years at least, and I was like, okay, like actually I haven't been on any date in a couple of years. Oh gosh. Oh, life. But he ended up being on the HCG diet, and we ended up arguing for 3 days about why in the hell is he on the HCG diet. And in the end, it comes down to um, he has a lot of fears of COVID, heart issues, and also a lot of self-esteem issues and ego issues with his body that are overriding common sense. And if you don't know what the HCG diet is, it's when once a week you get an HCG hormone injection, which is what women use during pregnancy to help release energy from fat. So the whole idea was that this hormone should help you release the energy you need from fat while only on a 500 calorie diet. Even the original scientists that studied this was like, I don't think this is actually working. And every researcher since has said, nah, this doesn't actually work. And when I sent him the research I had done on it, multiple articles, like research articles, like abstracts and such, like, that's understandable for most folks. And he's an attorney, so he's not stupid, so he can understand these things. And he comes back and says, well, this doesn't say that it's dangerous, it just says it's not effective. Yeah. So I was like, well, it's kind of nice knowing you. I need a partner with common sense. Toodles. I'll see you later. No. Um, it kind of sucked because for a minute there, I was like, oh, I have somebody along the journey with me. And I have my brother, and I've got a friend who's been joining, us and talking sometimes about, what she's doing with her weight, and my brother's doing what he's doing with his weight, and he sent me a picture of this, like, salad bar plate he had tonight with, his, like, fat-free ranch, and, like, good for you. I'm sitting here eating, McAllister's. No. No, I had gotten my soup from McAllister's. They have, like, the chicken tortilla soup, and I'm in love with it. But, yeah, I don't know, I had hope, and life has been really lonely the past couple of years. And I think all of that kind of came together, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be so lonely. I'm going to have somebody, close to me that understands the weight thing. And maybe they won't hate my body like I do. But apparently he hates his body too. So I said at one point, I can't help but wonder if you hate your body so much to be performing this kind of self-harm, what you're going to think of mine. And then to make it worse, tonight, I had somebody else message me on the dating site that seemed like he was going to be decent, you know, uh, educated, smart, attractive, whatever, that's great. Good energy level, like positive. And we're messaging, and I said I went to Kroger for a cupcake, and I came out with my groceries and no cupcake. They didn't have just a cupcake that I could eat. They didn't have like just a piece of cake. And I can't bring a whole thing of cupcakes home because I'm working towards bariatric surgery. He was like, why are you getting bariatric surgery? You're not that large. And at first I was like, okay, hold on. See, maybe that in a technical way. I hadn't been talking really long enough to understand, speech patterns yet if he was meaning it in a technical way, and I didn't know what his PhD was in, so I was like, I never did find out. But I was like, what does he mean by that large? And then he immediately follows up with, can I have a full body pic, like head to toe? And he even clarified, not nude, just so I could see all of you. And I'm like, okay, well, it's fair because I don't have any on my dating apps because I don't take them. I hate the way my body looks. I don't take anything, that really shows my big old belly gut sticking out and, my big old thighs and stuff. No, no, I don't want to see that unless, I'm not gonna take a photo of it. So I was like, okay, well, I think I have like one saved on my phone, and because I was feeling cute, and I was like in jeans and a tunic and a cardigan, and I had like this little like scarf tied around my waist, but like right on my bust with the little orange tunic, my little like multicolor like autumny. I was like, okay, so I'll send that one. I feel cute in that one. It shows everything. And I was like, but I'm like, okay. And so I sent it, and he was like, um, wow, you're tall. Yeah, 5'9". That's nice. And he was like, but you're not that large. He's like, it's really just all up top. You got slim thighs. I was like, you need to stop. Like, you need to stop talking at this point. Like, you're just rambling on, like, trying to talk yourself into finding me attractive. Meanwhile, you're telling me, like, all of the things I hate about myself, because then I had to correct him and be like, dude, I am in a tunic and jeans. You can't even see my thighs. I'm like, no. Like, really? My thighs are big. My calves are big. My weight is distributed evenly from my cheeks to my ankles. Okay? It is all flabby. I didn't say it all like that. I'm sitting there thinking, like, no, no, no. I mean, I'm universally heavy. Yeah. And he keeps rambling. He's like, well, no, you're not a pear, you're an apple bottom. And I'm like, oh, honey, no, no. I just stopped talking. I was like, no, you're trying to, no, just stop. And he has much sense. I was like, good, because, you should never say to a woman, you're not that large. Because you're saying you're large, you're just not that large. You're fluffy. You're not quite the damn or whoa, okay? Like, you're fluffy. And I'm like, okay, I'm fluffy and I'm snuggly. But, he's built, alright? He's built. And I don't need that kind of thing from that. I need somebody, if they're going to call me fluffy, they better be fluffy themselves, damn it. This is the crap that people my size put up with, you know? Like, our weight is a point of conversation. Like, I'm not bringing up to him, like, well, I bet you're at, like, maybe 170? I mean, it's all muscle weight. It's okay, it's all muscle weight, but, it's, yeah? Like, and what, you're like, what, 5'6"? Really? It's like 3 inches shorter than me. I mean, granted, I actually usually end up with shorter guys, but when you're tall, that's what happens. I don't really care one way or another. But, that's just it. Like, if you don't care about it, you don't talk about it. And that's all we ended up talking about. For like 3 minutes until I said no, I stopped replying. at least we got to that far. With him, most of the time what I get are people who, are too drunk to know their name, messaging me going, hey, nice tits, this is all the explicit things I'm gonna do to you. I do not understand. I never get that from women on dating apps. I only get it from men. What the hell? And depending on the dating app, they may throw a dick pic at me, and I'm like, why? Like, why? Granted, most of the apps now are trying to, like, find ways to keep that from happening. But, like, I mean, if this was 20 years ago, you'd be out on a trench, out on the curb in a trench coat, naked, and flashing people. Like, it's the equivalent. It really is the equivalent. Like, just because I'm on the dating website, just because I'm hanging out in the park, does not mean that I want to get a dick pic or flashed by the guy in the trench coat. I'm like, oh my cow, no. Yeah, this is my life. I mean, you've got fad diets everywhere, and I'm trying to do it the right way, the right way, the healthy way. I'm not, trying to drop really quick. I don't feel like that's what anybody should be doing, you know, and I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, the bariatric surgery has been a last resort. I mean, I have been working on this for 3 years. This is, and it'll be 4 years by the time I have the surgery. I'm like, well, almost. I'm doing it in May, and I started my journey in like August or September 3 years ago. So, I mean, that's that's a hell of an effort. But I'm not getting, any better physically. You know, I think I hit the plateau of what, was going to work for me at the time. And now I'm back in a program where I have that accountability, which is nice, and hopefully that'll help keep me moving forward. But I I can't I can't just, I can't justify the HCG diet, or even for a lot of people the keto diet. Like, you have to have a specific, body type and chemistry for the keto diet to be healthy for you. Like, it's, or like some folks are doing intermittent fasting. I cannot do the intermittent fasting. My brother, however, has one major meal a day, and that's all he does. And he has lost a ton of weight this year, like a ton of weight. And I'm like, good for you, kid. Good for you. Damn, I'm proud of that. But me, that's not what works for me. That's actually, a lifestyle I lived for a long time because of how I worked, because how life was. I wouldn't eat until I got home from work. There just wasn't money to do it, and that one meal a day, be a large meal, but I wasn't losing any weight. So no, like I don't think a lot of these diets, they're just not healthy all the way around. They really aren't. And I think a big part of it is people aren't willing to play the long game. And I've been playing the long game, and it's time that, now I've kind of, I hate to say it, earned, but I've transitioned. I've leveled up. I don't know what you want to call it, to the point that, surgery is the thing. And that's what's going to work for me, I think, best out of every other option I have. It's an extreme option, and it's what I put a lot of thought into, and I've done a lot of research on. Well, I've read a lot of research on. I know the risks that I'm taking with it. I know that, 3 out of 10 people who have the surgery put the weight back on, and that it's a lifestyle adjustment. It is just, I hate to say the word change sometimes there, because sometimes change is just scary, you know? But all of these fad diets, and people do it because, you know, they're desperate. They're desperate for the pain to stop for a lot of folks. They're desperate because they need their heart to work, because it suddenly doesn't. They're desperate because they've developed this health issue and they're like, oh my god, how do I make this stop? You know? And then a lot of us are just desperate to be loved. And it's really hard to feel that a lot when you're my size. or when you're obese in general. It's hard for a lot of people to feel it in general, but when it comes to like feeling attractive and having a romantic and sexual partner, that kind of love. It's really hard. It's really hard because when you hate your body, they're going to hate your body, and I have had to have this big shift in mindset over the past few years that I do not hate my body. I love my body. I hate how my body looks. And I hate how my body is reacting to the things that I have done to it over a lifetime of horrible decisions. I'm a recovering alcoholic, I'm an ex-smoker, I'm an ex-vapor, I'm a compulsive eater, I struggle with so much. I have lived the life of staying up really late at night constantly and, working jobs that suck. And, what a lot of people who are struggling, financially, they do. They take on multiple jobs. They take on all sorts of things. They do all sorts of things that they shouldn't do because they're desperate and the money is there if you do. Like pulling 24-hour shifts and things like that. There was time where that's what I had to do. And now my body hates me because I did not love my body. Actually, I have a little bit of a chest pain going on here right now, which is lovely. This is how life has been. And it comes and goes. I know what it is. And it is my heart. It hurts occasionally because of an inflammation issue because I'm fat. I am obese. And my heart is mad at me for it. Like, what did you do? My back is killing me today because I had to get everything out of my car because I'm getting rid of my car and well, my current car. And I had so much stuff in my car. A lot of it's still sitting outside on the curb, actually, next to the driveway because I couldn't carry it all into the house. Like there was so much. I was doing stuff and I pulled a muscle in my back and I was like, ow, oh my god, I can't move. I was like, I need some ibuprofen. And I came up in the house and I was like, all right, I'm just not moving for the next hour. I'm just going to sit here. And that's what my body is telling me. Like, you're not like carrying all of these groceries up the steps, girl. You're carrying all of you up the steps. There's a reason why your feet hurt. There's a reason why your back hurts. And I did that. I look at my weight and I'm like, I did that. And, there's a little bit of solace because I can say, well, a lot of the reason why I have done this is because I had to, or I had no other options. When you're working with very limited funds for food, you don't have a lot of options that are fulfilling. You don't have a lot that's going to, meet your needs that is healthy. Because your needs are something you can afford that's going to make you filled. When you're working really hard, that's what you want. Is you want comfort food, you want food that's going to fulfill you, you want all of this, and I just even like when you go to a food pantry, which I've been through many a food pantry, you get a box of non-perishables. Have you ever looked at the sodium count on everything in that box? I mean, it's incredibly generous, when you get the Thanksgiving boxes and you're like, oh, I've got like all these canned goods in here. That's great and that's wonderful. And yeah, you're going to have a great, great feast. It's going to taste wonderful. But what are you doing to yourself? It is ridiculous. Please rinse your vegetables. If they're in a can, rinse your vegetables. If you're giving food for the upcoming holidays, as we're getting closer to it, try to make it fresh. Try to make it fresh. A bag of potatoes lasts a long time. It goes a long way. bag of onions can be really, really easy, If if you can, give fresh. The last thing I need to talk about is kind of along these lines, though. I I am not healthy enough to do med school, and I know that. I've been trying to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I can work on everything. Originally, I'd planned on having the surgery back in like the early part of this year, and probably spring break to May, have the surgery, and I'd be on my way right now. And then losing dad has postponed everything a year, and so I'm like, okay, my whole life has been postponed a year. My education, everything. And grief does things to your body. It does so much to your body. And I'm dealing with so many health issues that I need to take some of them off the docket before I put myself through something like that. And to be honest, right now, I have seen so much burnout up close and personal that it's really disheartening. And I know it'll be a little bit different because I'm going into psych, but my whole point of going into psych was to work on systemic change, was to work on, you know, helping folks get better access to care and good care, and, seeing what really has to happen to help those that are in, especially lower socioeconomic brackets, or that, struggle to obtain health care or to maintain constant care. What are those barriers, and how in the hell do we get rid of them? And what really, when it comes to like generational poverty, falls into this, because generational poverty often comes hand in hand with generational mental illness and generational addiction. So when you look at all of these things, like, looking at the research, looking at the care and the treatment, looking at all of it, I mean, that was my goal. And I'm not well enough to do med school. I'm not well enough to do the stuff that gets you into med school right now. I need some time at least. And I don't know if I'll ever decide to go back to that path. I really don't want to leave that path. I've been really heartbroken this week. I've cried a lot about it. However, I have decided to work on my master's in public health instead, and I'm going to finish my bachelor's in neuropsych, then do the MPH program, and after I do my MPH, I'll decide whether or not I want to continue on to med school. That'll give me probably, 4 or 5 years until I have to make that decision, which means that I'll have had the surgery, I'll have, settled into life without a stomach, and, hopefully we'll start seeing some resolution on some of my health issues. And, in the meantime, I can work on others. But until I lose some weight, I'm not going to deal with the issues with my heart. And until I can get that inflammation down, like, I can barely walk up a flight of steps without feeling like I'm going to pass out. Like, walking up a flight of steps right now for me, I can't feel my feet by the time I get to the top step, because my heart's working so hard to just try to get that blood moving. And I'm like, okay, great, wonderful, great. Like, my legs feel like they're just going to fall out from underneath me. I should not be trying to do med school like that. It's an incredibly stressful process. And though I feel like intellectually I'd be able to handle it, physically, on top of everything else, no. I can't, handle my day to day right now with what I have going on. Nonetheless, if I take on that path. And so I'm not going to try to dedicate myself to something that is just going to make me hate the path I'm taking. I'm doing this so I can, do something helpful that I love, something that I believe in. It's really hard to do that when, you're falling apart. But the quote still stands. I was sent a TED Talk from a guy who was talking with his friend who was a therapist who had been recovering from bipolar depression after being taken off of lithium. And he asks her, how do you continue? And she said, I learned to give all of the things that I need. And I think that still stands true. I think that's something that I could definitely do with an MPH. Because though I've needed care, what I really needed was connection to the care. There are bridges that need to be built. And if I can't be the destination, then I'm going to grab a hammer and build a bridge. My daddy taught me how to use a hammer. So I can do that. So those are the big things. Heartbroken, loneliness. On opposite ends of the spectrum. Somebody dieting too hard and somebody who can't get over the fact that I'm fat. And really just feeling too fat for med school. I mean, that's the easy, simple way to put it. But just too unhealthy for it. And I think there's a big fair statement to be made that if I can't treat myself in a healthy way, then I shouldn't be trying to treat others' health. So I mean, even if it is mental, health, I mean, there's something really to be said about that. It's not just do as I say, not as I do. Like, you have to be able to practice what you preach, at least to a human extent. So I'm sad, brokenhearted, I'm lonely. I don't have my cupcake from Kroger. I put it back. I was a good girl. But I do have my sprees, my chewy sprees. And I'm going to go eat a couple of them, go to bed, and get some doggy snuggles, because he needs attention. And quite frankly, so do I.